FAVR family, to God we give the glory. Good news is here. Welcome to the FAVR Lifestyle Show. I am Pamela Lowery. And as always, a lot is going on in the world today, but FAVR is here to keep you encouraged, enlightened, and spiritually focused. On today's show, we'll talk about sovereignty, the sovereignty of God, His grace, His mercy, His love. And no matter how far we may stray, how often we may mess up, and even in the times of need, God is truly a waymaker, turning our wounds into wisdom. FAVR family, joining me today, we have believers from literally around the world sharing their journey to empower and ignite your faith. We have been honored today to be blessed with South African motivational speaker and ultra-endurance cyclist Grant Lottering, who went from death to conquering the French Alps and inspiring millions around the world. And also joining us is national playwright and director and host of one of the hottest faith-based relationship podcasts in the world, Dear Future Wifey, Laterras R. Whitfield, who has shared his testimony of infidelity, divorce, and now healing. And yes, we got a special treat for you in the house. The dynamic husband and wife hip-hop gospel music duo Joshua and Christina Bridgewater have stopped by the FAVR studios. All up next when we return.
I don't really know what I should be thinking, but I know that I have changed. A better place now, a new season. Gone is the pain.
Joining me is South African endurance cyclist Grant Lottering, who has defied death to become an inspiration to many. After his serious crash, which left him seriously injured, Grant fought back to become the first cyclist to complete a solo nonstop 1,000-kilometer ride through the French Alps in under 50 hours. Thank you so much, Grant, for joining us, and thank you for coming to the FAVR Show.
Hey, Pamela, thanks for having me. This is wonderful.
No problem. Look, first off, how is the weather down in South Africa today?
Well, it's not as good as in California or the States. We got a major storm brewing outside. We're expecting some heavy rain at the moment. We're
Okay.
into winter.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I've went through and read all of your information, went and done background research as it relates to your story. You have a wild story of you started cycling when you were 12, and then when you were practicing for a race 2 months out, you had a gravely incident. Can you tell our viewers about the incident that you had?
Yeah, it was extreme. It really became the first day of my second life, if I can put it that way. I was in Italy. I was preparing for a World Championship race, and I was there to prepare. I was in the Alps, getting familiar with the terrain and the conditions, etc. And it rained the night before, so we went. We were due to cross 3 mountains in this particular race I had entered. I came over the first mountain. We had to descend down the other side back into the valley, but there was a lot of water on the road. Came through a corner. We were doing over 40 miles an hour. I went straight on through the water, couldn't make the turn, crashed straight into a rock embankment. And that became the day of days for me. God was right there the whole time.
That became the day of your new start. With the research that I've gone through, they called you dead man walking. You were pronounced dead on the scene?
Yeah, what actually happened was I crashed into the rock embankment with the right side of my body. So I suffered extensive internal injuries. I fractured 22 bones, including 12 ribs. My femur, my back, my shoulder was crushed, my spine, my sternum, my hip, many other injuries, a lot of internal bleeding. And my heart stopped. And Pamela, I experienced death because I never even had a head injury. So I can pretty much remember everything that happened up to that point where I literally could not breathe anymore. And it became a very, very peaceful moment in immense chaos and pain.
Sì, quando c'è il paziente di che sta perdendo conoscenza.
Sì, bene, guarda, adesso mi confronto un attimo col medico, poi ti faccio.
Aspetta, preparati lì.
grazie.
Va bene, mano, non ti scappavo, ho qualche problema qua con le radio.
Hai te andare avanti voi. Allora, ascolta, dagli la bombola.
Allora, stai vuoi, devi essere relax, né?
È aperto?
Sì,
Il resto?
Aspetta, cambiamo. Oh, ma sono uguali, guarda, facciamo questo di nafta. Possiamo, guarda, sono uguali, guarda.
Relax, siete vuoi? Attenzione alle placche. Dai ragazzi.
Cosa ti serve?
And yeah, the doctors arrived on the scene eventually. Some people tried to help me. One of the guys who crashed into me was a doctor from New York, believe it or not. And he played a big role in saving my life. But yeah, my heart stopped beating. They had to defibrillate me twice on the roadside. They had to do a bit of surgery on the road as well. Airlifted me to the ICU unit in Trento, not too far away. And in the helicopter, they managed to get my heart going again. It was a pure miracle, as they described it, that I survived.
Now, if we had someone who was not a believer and they were to come across this show, how did you know that that was God at that particular moment? How did you know you just weren't out of your mind because of that accident? How did you know that God's grace and his mercy was with you at that moment?
Oh, I absolutely love that question. That is just brilliant. Yeah. Well, look, for starters, I mean, I've always had a very deep, intimate, personal relationship with God. And I was praying that morning in my hotel room for the race. So I had every reason to be angry with God, considering nothing that I prayed for actually happened. But, you know, in that moment of chaos, I can recall shouting out to God to help me. I said, Jesus, help me. I can't breathe. Help me. I can't breathe. There were guys who I've made contact with afterwards, and they relayed that to me. I said, you were crying out to Jesus to help you. And in the midst of that pain and chaos, as I mentioned earlier, it was as though you put me in a soundproof room. I really experienced the hand of God just take me, and he just held me, and I could feel no pain. I could hear nothing. I could still see everybody, but I just had this total peace that I've never, ever experienced before, ever. And that was God. He was right there with me. And the most important thing, though, for me was I had absolutely no fear of dying. I was not terrified of dying. I was crying out in pain because it was so extreme. I think had I not known God at that moment, I would have been absolutely terrified. The outcome may have also been very, very different.
And, you know, for some of our viewers, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I see it as something that didn't happen to me. It's something that happened for me. You know, sometimes God will let things happen in your life, whether you're a believer or not, because he's got a purpose with your life, wherever you are. And sometimes he allows things to happen to get us to where he wants us to be or where he needs us to be in order to use us for his glory.
That was the question that I was going to have for you, because things like that, you know, whether they're good or bad, even in the bad times, those things push us to exactly where we should be or where we need to be. With that, why would you tell, you know, if for our viewers, why is it so important to have a relationship with Christ?
Oh, you know, it's for one, you were born with a purpose and a destiny. And if you don't know what it is, you know, you can achieve immense success in life. Will it fulfill you? Probably not. You'll always be looking for something. And when you find Jesus, you not only have assurance of the future in terms of achieving your purpose or fulfilling your destiny in life. You have someone to guide you every single day, that when you go through difficult times, when you go through uncertainty, when life throws you a curveball like it did with me, you don't have to try and get through it alone. You have someone with you who knows tomorrow, that you can trust with tomorrow. And that's why it's so vital. And I mean, I don't even need to mention the fact that when you die, you don't have to fear where you're going. You're going to be with the Lord. So you've got that eternal peace. But, you know, just to go through life in today's time, and how this world is changing without Christ, without the protection of the Holy Spirit and God in your life, it's very, very difficult. to find complete, total contentment and fulfillment, which you only get through Jesus, in my opinion. That's my answer.
So after this accident, how has your life changed? How has your relationships changed with your friends and family? You definitely have to be looking at life through a totally different and new lens, because you've experienced that peace from God, which I have experienced that before too. It feels like he's just hugging you. It just feels like you're just at peace and you don't have to worry about anything. But how has your life changed since then? How do you look at the world now?
Yeah, it's changed significantly. I had a very good career at that point. I was working in a bank here in South Africa for 17 odd years. But my life, even though I loved God and I had a very good relationship with him, I was involved with my church and that. But, somehow I was always like the center of my life. What can I achieve? What can I accomplish? Chasing a career, all the stuff that comes with it, the car and the house and all that stuff. I recall waking up in ICU in Italy, and one of my first thoughts were, thank you, Lord, that I'm alive. And from that day on, I've been grateful to be alive. Every day, to me still today, every day is a gift. It's not guaranteed. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So in that sense, my life completely changed. But another significant thing for me was, in hospital, I had a lot of time. I was there for 21 days before I had to come home and recover at home for 4 months. I asked myself some very serious questions in hospital, and I think it's because of what I went through. I had questions. And one of them was, how relevant was my life? And had I died, how would people have remembered me? And I was not happy with the answers. I couldn't really find much. So I purposed that I'm going to take what happened to me and I'm going to turn it into something to make a difference, to be relevant, and to live a life of gratitude. So for me, it became less inward focused and more outward focused in terms of, God, what do you want me to do? I'm prepared. I'm available. I'm prepared to do what you want me to do. And since then, I've walked away from my career. I've embarked on this new life, which I believe is developing to a point where I will be sharing my testimony of what God has done through me globally. I've spoken in 12 countries, and it's really just preparation for what God wants me to do. I believe that. So my whole outlook on life has changed to the extent that it's all about, how relevant am I? How can I improve others' lives? How can I just love people and love life and love God and just allow him to take control of my life? That's how my life has changed.
Grant, I don't know whether I want to scream or I want to cry right now during this interview, because everything that you're saying, I felt the same thing. I've gone through the same thing. And so when I wake up personally, God, whatever you want me to do, because he's shown me on this journey, he's right with me and he's not going to let me down. He's going to keep me, wherever I am. And so when you said that, it was just like, okay, God, it's confirmation. You're giving me confirmation from all the way in South Africa, because when you have that moment, when you have that moment, it is just so fulfilling. You don't even care about the things of the world anymore, because you know how he has you. So with your story overall, what's next? What's next for you, Grant?
Yeah, well, this door in the United States opened during the pandemic. I was here in South Africa. I've been doing tours every year in my country as well as in France, as you mentioned earlier. And these tours are all about not just seeing how far I can ride my bike, but about using it to raise money for underprivileged children, which I'm very grateful to be able to do, the gift of being able to ride a bike, using it to make a difference. And in that time, the US opened up through my sponsors, Unite Health Share Ministry, and they approached me and said, we'd like you to do a tour in the United States. We'd like to bring you out here. We want your story to be heard in the US. So I spent 2 months there now. It was wonderful. Did a successful tour through California, Southern California. And I'll be going back in September. I'm doing a talk up in a conference in Texas, a Christian conference. And from there, I would like to just see what God does, you know. I mean, we plan, we work things, and we do the best we can, but I trust God with the outcome. So I think what's next is United States is opened up, and I want to embrace it, and I want to do as much as I can in the US in terms of sharing my testimony, impacting people, raising money for underprivileged children, and just tell people how good God is. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Grant, for sharing your amazing testimony. And if you would like to have more information about Grant, go to favormag.com. Now, also make sure you like and subscribe to Favor Lifestyle on all of our social media platforms to get the scoop about what's going on as it relates to the gospel. Get ready, and up next, the man behind the hottest faith-based relationship podcast, Laterras R. Whitfield, after these messages. Welcome back to the Favor Show. Favor family, we know that love and relationships are not easy, from dating all the way into marriage. But what happens when the relationship hits rocky waters, needs some guidance, or even prayer? Our next guest was divinely led to openly sharing his personal journey about his divorce, and which led him to his amazing new podcast, which is the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Welcome, Emmy nominee, and I'm looking right at him. Yes, I am. National playwright and director, and my friend, Laterras Whitfield. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me here, Pamela.
Yes, welcome to my show.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. So tell us about Dear Future Wifey. You know, how did you get here? It says, you know, we know infidelity, but you were honest.
Yes, 100%. So the Dear Future Wifey podcast is my personal journey as I discover, uncover, and recover love. So I've been inviting the audience on it's like my online journal, if you would, where I'm inviting people in on my story as I glean understanding and information so that I can do it better the next time around.
So I know women, we ask this all the time. You know what I'm gonna say.
Go ahead, ask.
Do all men cheat?
No, I don't think all of anybody does one particular thing. I know that what led to my podcast is all about my personal journey. Mm-hmm. So I'm not one of those guys that say, well, men do this and men do that. I speak from a personal standpoint and say I did. Mm-hmm. And so the reason why I can admit that I cheated because I had a lack of integrity. Mm-hmm. And so I had to work on that in order to become the best version of myself. The
most beautiful thing about your podcast is that it's faith-based.
100%.
So like other podcasts that may be out there, everybody, they're not biblically sound.
Right.
It's based off of their opinion. So that totally makes yours different. In addition to, you have not only celebrities, but also pastors to give information because this is a faith journey.
Right.
So tell us more about that.
Well, the way people come on my podcast is something that they have to say, whether I see it online or if it was a sermon, for instance, if it was a pastor, or even my personal friends. I always say that people are uniquely chosen to be on my podcast if I can glean something from my past, my present, or my future. And so I talk to everyday people because I feel like we are all trying to figure out this thing called love.
Yes.
And the reason why it's faith-based is it's no way for me to understand the gravity of love if I don't fall in love with He who is love, which is God is love. So it has to all come around full circle.
You know, not until I really got onto my journey with Christ that I really understood. I thought I had it all together. Mm-hmm. But then that's when I finally understood that first and foremost, you have to have a relationship with Christ.
Facts.
Because if I have my relationship with Christ, then I can be forgiving. My heart can be soft. I'm not walking around with an attitude and moody. And that's the key part that's so important about your show. Because everything that you talk about, you circle it back to the foundation of the word.
Yes.
So couples that are out there, and I don't know any of our audience members, if you're single, because we're going to talk about being single and married. If you are a single individual right now, what should you do to prepare yourself to go back into this dating world? Because it's crazy out here. You get a little bit of everything.
Number one thing is seek healing. A lot of times you're introducing your own trauma into a relationship, and now you're expecting that person. We kind of call that baggage,
Okay.
but I always call it just misappropriated trauma. And you have to deal with your own demons, your own idiosyncrasies, so that you can show up as your best self in the next relationship. Because oftentimes we get in relationships and we're looking for, we find this codependency, which is what I dealt with in my early 20s. Didn't realize my infidelity was attached to my codependency, needing affirmation and validation outside of myself and outside of my wife. And so after dealing with that, going through this podcast, going through therapy, then I've been able to address those concerns so that I can show up a whole lot better.
Now, you just said a key word, therapy.
100%.
So many people don't go to a therapist,
No.
and they go from relationship to relationship, bouncing around, not even with Christ. How has therapy changed you as a man?
Well, it's allowed me to look inward. Oftentimes as what I would do, I was about to say as men, we do this, but I'm gonna say as me.
Okay.
I went through this powerful program called Celebrate Recovery. And Celebrate Recovery was a program at my church, and the program caused us not to say, well, you and he and she. We will always start off with the I did this, I felt this, I did this because I, 100% accountability. So that's the reason why I'm able to show up holistically on my podcast, is because I say, I did this, and sometimes it's shocking. People are like, I can't believe he just said that.
Because that's what you hear from men.
Yeah.
Well, she ain't doing this, or.
Well, we learned that from Adam. So the first thing that Adam did was blame Eve. You know, he said, it's the woman that you gave me. And so we got it from our fathers, you know, from our forefathers. So we're innately, as human beings, have a propensity to blame somebody else or point the finger at someone else. And so what I ended up doing, I said, listen, y'all can't tell me how to live my story. Y'all can't tell me how to show up authentic in my life. So I'm going to show you that I can be 100% 10 toes down and stand in my truth. And only then, see, the Bible says, confess your faults one to another so that you may be healed.
Yes.
The reason why a lot of us aren't walking through our healing is because we're not confessing. We can't even have salvation without confession. So in order to get healing, we have to walk through that same journey.
Do you think people can take the truth? Because sometimes, just tell me the truth. Just tell me what you're doing.
Yeah, well,
and
sometimes,
then you give it to them, and they can't take the truth.
Well, and you know what? And that's not the person that's giving the truth. That's not their problem. If we owe people the truth, whether they can handle it or not, we owe them the truth. Because at the end of the day, to thine own self be true, which is what Socrates says. So to thine own self be true. So if I lie to you, then I'm truly lying to myself. And so if we truly show up, like you hear me say this oftentimes, holistically, and be able to say, listen, this is who I am. And when you show up authentically, then you give other people permission to show up holistically in your life.
Having many couples on your show.
Yes.
If a couple was watching the show, and even couples, we got some couples in our audience, how you've had celebrities, you've had people fly in from around the world to be on your show. What are some key things that you have learned or you have picked up that could help couples?
It's to be honest.
Yes.
Be honest with what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I say I hear a whole lot of stuff, I hear, I'm not gonna go deep into this, but when I say be honest with whatever you desire in your marriage, say that up front.
Okay.
A lot of times people get into these marriages and then they're wanting, polygamy in a relationship, or polyamorous relationships, but you're signing up for a monogamous relationship. Let that be known up front before you take somebody down the aisle. Show up truthfully in who you are so that you don't have to go through the pain of a divorce. 50% of marriages are ending in divorce, and that's not just in the secular community, but that's in the church. And so, what I found is that it's because people aren't honest. They're just not honest. You get married for various reasons. Some people get married just because their mom told them to, or they were like, well, we've been together, living together for all these years. So, and the woman may have given him an ultimatum. So he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and marry you because I don't want to lose you. But be honest, whatever was blocking you to get married, if you feel like she's not the one, don't go in and gaslight her through a marriage only to end up divorcing her anyway. So just be honest, show up 100%.
I'm still on the fence because I don't think people can really take the truth. And I'll say that because you were recently on, her name was Brini?
Yes.
You were recently on Brini's show.
Yes.
And they were tearing you up.
Well, let me tell you something. So I was on Brini Lee's YouTube channel. Brittany Lee has like 650,000 subscribers.
Yes.
So she flew in from the UK. She did my podcast, and then I did hers. We rushed to do my interview because she had to catch a flight. So what was supposed to be like an hour plus interview ended up being consolidated to 30 minutes.
Yes.
So the whole interview, I didn't know that she was going to tailor the whole conversation around my past and my infidelity of when I got married 16 years ago, been divorced 7 years. But that was the whole interview. The whole interview was focused on my past. And then the last 2 minutes was, so what would you tell people now?
Yes.
And but a lot of women were triggered. A lot of women was like, I can't believe he said that. He sounded like he's bragging about cheating. He sounded like he's bragging about his infidelity. I said, no, it's not. I'm bragging. It's that I've been so healed and redeemed that I can talk about it without feeling the pain.
Yes.
Because in the past, I wouldn't even admit it. In the past, when I was cheating, my friends didn't even know, so when I got a divorce, it was shocking to everybody because it's like, well, what happened? Y'all were so perfect. How could you have gotten a divorce? But it was that I walked in shame. And now that I'm not walking in shame and I can actually admit it, me and my ex-wife are cool to this very day. We're friends. But then when I'm sharing the testimony, now women are like, I can't believe he's the same as he always been.
Yes.
And so it's like, but
they
I've
can't
been healed. So I
handle
laugh at that. Yeah, but that's not my responsibility.
Exactly.
So my responsibility isn't for the person to be able to receive it.
Yes.
My mandate and requirement from Christ is to speak that truth. And then I've gotten a lot of DMs from a lot of men that said, man, thank you, bro. I'm going through that right now.
Yes.
I'm going through that right now, and I'm glad that you didn't sugarcoat it. Because I know how to, I'm trained in interviews because I toured across the country doing interviews on radio stations and television. I know how to skate around the question, but I said, no, I'm going to answer the question so that people get healed. So people can get healing. That's all it's about.
And tell the truth. And that's what we need.
Healing.
We need healing, and we need to be truthful.
Yes.
Not to, and when I watched that interview, it was more or less, they want the truth, but just sugarcoat it. Just put a little bow on it.
That's what people want.
But when a man is telling you why he is doing what he's doing, and you are open and honest to say, it wasn't my wife.
Right.
It was me.
Yes.
It was me.
But they kept hearing that, no, you're blaming your wife. You're blaming your wife. And I'm like, I just said I cheated because I had a lack of integrity. Then when they started unpacking, so what led to this? What did this? And I start telling you the journey, then women that were triggered, women that may have been cheated on in the past, women that may have been the side chick.
Yes.
And so we covered all that. And then they're being triggered and getting frustrated about it. And I'm like, wow, but why are you mad though?
Let's circle back real quick. Now FAVR is a faith-based show. And we're going to talk about the uncomfortable truth sometimes. And now, this is the new stigma of it's cute being somebody's side chick.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And even in the spiritual realm, it's not condoned, right? But then everybody, or not everyone, but people have become accustomed to being that side chick or the side dude.
Yep.
And you see memes like it's funny. But then what about the covenant of a relationship and a commitment with Christ?
Facts.
So how can individuals stop that mindset? Because that's nothing but the enemy. It's okay to be the side chick. It's okay to be the side dude. And then in the meantime, especially in families of color, Black folk, the family is destroyed. It's dismantled.
Yes.
Because the enemy has planted that seed to say that it's okay to be the side piece.
Right.
So from your interviews, you've had countless interviews, what have you learned as it relates to being that side individual who's not going to reap the benefit of anything because they're messing with the covenant of someone else's relationship?
I did an interview with Denai. Denai is a therapist, and in the middle of the interview, we started talking about how she fell in love. She was in love with this guy. Then they went their separate ways. He got married. She didn't know, and then when they reconnected, her friend told her, "Hey, he's married now."
Wow.
But her heart was still involved. And after the interview, she said, "Laterras, I can't run this. Like, we got to record something else." And I said, "No, people are going to be set free from this."
That's right.
And then she was just like, I just don't see how. We released the video. Like I said, she's a therapist. She ended up getting like 12 to 15 new clients from that. People were DMing me saying, wow, I was her. And she never even engaged in any sexual act. It was an emotional affair.
Spirit, a soul tie.
Yeah, a straight soul tie. And then the other women that were DMing me, they were like, well, no, we were sleeping together and all that for years with the married man that they were associated with. What I found is that people are so broken and they're looking for love. And And that's the reason why I'm the type, I don't throw stones at nobody. I understand what leads to bad choices, what leads to bad decisions. And in the root of it all, it comes from brokenness. It comes from seeking validation. And unfortunately, they may be seeking validation from someone that's in covenant with someone else, but they're still seeking that validation in hopes that they are gaining something of value within themselves. And then when they get to the end of that journey, they find themselves broken and even more broken and sad and then feeling more disposed of. But that's why I say it's all about healing. If we can focus on ourselves and say, hey, listen, let me go get the healing that my dad was absent in my life. I feel a void in my life because I'm searching for love with other men. Let me go get that healed.
Yes.
I've been dealing with different guys, and every guy that I dated broke up with me.
Yes.
Let me deal with that brokenness because I feel like I'm unworthy. Whatever that brokenness is, or even as a man who says, yeah, it's cool. I go and I smash marry women. No, what is that? How would you feel if that happened to you? You'd be like, oh no, I'll kill somebody if they did it.
Yes.
Well, no, come on. Like, you got to be your brother's keeper. You
Yes.
honor that man's wife, just like you want somebody to honor yours. And so we got to treat people the way we want to be treated and honor people the way we want to be honored. And the first thing comes from us honoring ourselves.
Look at you.
It just is what it is.
For more information, we got that and we'll put that up on our website. And also, viewers, check out the latest in favor news and entertainment.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
I guess I have really been looking for love in this dating app. Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
Joining me is an amazing Christian couple whose life paths have brought them together to share God's word through the ministry of music. Our favorite family, welcome husband and wife hip-hop gospel artist Bridgewater. Hey, you guys, how are y'all doing? Welcome home. Welcome home.
Glad to be home. Glad to be home.
It is so good to see y'all. And for our favorite family, who this is maybe the first time that they're seeing you all, give us a brief story. Tell us your story.
All right. So we were two dreamers. Okay. So we went to acting school, acting conservatory, KD. It may be right up the street somewhere because we're in Dallas, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right around the corner. So I met her. She was in her third semester in KD. I was in my first semester. I had a huge afro, and so I needed somebody to braid my hair. She noticed that because, you know, I mean, it was out there, man. It was out there. And so, you know, she offered to braid my hair. I gave her, what, 20?
Gave her about $40.
Gave her about $40.
Now, is that a pickup line? Can I braid your hair?
Right. Well, it was, kind of. I really needed the funds.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
And so I gave her, it was $20, but I gave her 40 because, you know, I was trying to show her, you know, I had a little bit of extra something. I ain't have nothing, but I, you know, just in case, I gave you that extra 20.
Yes.
But we started off doing acting. We were trying to be performers, and so it went from her coming over to the house. We started off as friends. She came over to the house, and I let her hear some music that I was into, producing. I was doing a little bit of singing then. And she heard the music. She jumped on a couple of tracks, and I was like, okay, you sound all right.
She good.
You sound all right.
Yes.
And then it went from there to us actually opening up for a certain artist. Babe, you can tell the story. She can tell the story way better than I can.
At that point, we had friends that went to PV, and they were throwing these parties.
Now, what's PV for our viewers around?
Preview.
Okay.
Out in Houston. It's close to Houston, right?
Okay.
And they threw these college parties that we would open up for local artists, some celebrity artists, and we went from there. So we was doing secular music. Then we did I think we did a showcase for some executives out of Nashville. And they asked us two questions. They said, are you guys married? And is this Christian based? And at the time I was like, no, well, we are married, but no, we just did a secular, we're doing R&B and body rolls, you know? So that kind of gave us a clue to what we needed to pursue.
That was a divine appointment.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was God speaking like, okay, now y'all married, but I need y'all to do some work.
Exactly.
So how has God transformed you as individuals, but then you as a married couple?
Oh my goodness. Wow. You know, God is so funny. I never thought I would be a rapper and using that as a tool to just bring people to Jesus, to be a light. He's transformed my life to take somebody who thought they were not worthy of love, been rejected, had suffered with depression and all that. He showed me that he can use that.
Isn't he so amazing?
Ain't he? And just for people who may feel the same way.
Yeah, it was the same here. You know, I was looking for validation. I was growing up without a father. I knew my father, but he wasn't in the house. And so looking for validation, but God, he really kind of impressed upon me that through this vehicle of music, that I could really get the story out and I can get his story out, and that my voice will be heard in that way, you know, making him known. So.
Why is it important to have Christ as the center of your marriage?
Oh, you'll be lost out here in the street.
It's hard.
Man, it keeps you grounded. It keeps you grounded when you have a fear of God and you know that he really holds you up to a certain standard. You know, God knows what he's created you to do, who he's created you to be, especially as a man, you know, and he holds you to a certain standard as a man, you know, so yeah.
You know, the different dynamics of the home now is really a woman may be the head of the household in many homes. And that dynamic is off. The shift is off. So as it being a wife, an entertainer, but then also a child of God, how do you infuse all of that into your family?
Man, a lot of people was like, how do y'all balance it all? And we say the scale is broken. There is no balance. God is at the center, and we just try to please him. You know, he said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw men into you. So we keep that at our core. Like, hey, this is not about us at the end of the day. I'm a mama, I'm this, but above all that, I'm a servant. I have to serve Christ. And then all the other things will be added.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
And we do our best to try to be examples of imperfect people in front of our children. Always going back when we've done something, we try to apologize. We try to let them know, I'm gonna explain it like this. You know, we're not perfect, but we're doing our best to follow Christ as best we know how. You know, we didn't have great examples of just that father figure, that married couple. Both of us come from broken homes. We didn't see marriage, you know, as an example in front of us. So we're doing our best to try to
Trying to break that
break that curse.
Because it is a curse.
It
you
is.
know, I come from a broken home. And to be honest, in these days, we have to be honest. A lot of us come from a broken home where it should be God, the man, the woman, and then the children.
Exactly.
But we have it to where I don't need a man. And the kids, I don't want my daddy to be around because the mother has planted different seeds into the child's head. So when it comes back to us doing what we do, it is very difficult in this word. So when do y'all find time to make music?
Man, in between. Changing diapers and all.
So because how many children do you have?
We have 6 kids. I have 5 boys and 1 girl.
So when is the time to make music?
Oh my God.
Man, it's on the way to work, on the way back from work, while we're dropping kids off.
On
hey,
your
listen
lunch
to this.
break at work.
I'm gonna send you something that I've been working on, and she got on her
my
lunch break.
Yes.
When they finally fall asleep.
When they fall
So we're
asleep.
pulling some long nights. It's a sacrifice, but it's worth it when somebody comes up for prayer. When they say, "Hey, I didn't commit suicide because of your story."
Yes.
Or because you explained this Bible story to me. Now I get it.
Yes.
You know, so it's just a blessing.
So tell us about some of your new projects.
What's next? Our latest single, Manifest, is on all digital platforms. It's simply us speaking our truth, manifesting ourselves. This is who I am. I'm speaking out and being who I am.
Yes.
This is what I see. We see a lot of boldness in other cultures, people living their truth, saying what they believe. And so it's us saying, this is what I see and this is what my truth is.
What is the future of Bridgewater?
Man,
You can tell what you got.
Man, we just hope we bring people to Christ. We're nobodies, and we're grateful that he has taken us all over the U.S. Look, that's how we feel, all over the U.S. to just tell people about just a God that really sees them and hears them.
Yes.
The future is bringing as many people to Christ and then helping people. We went to Performing Arts College, so we want to help people with development for music and stage, you know, confidence, reading the Bible. I help people on TikTok, and I make these relatable Bible stories, and so many people, all ages and all colors, are like, thank you. I didn't know the Bible, that was in the Bible. You made it relatable. So to get people back to their word, that's the main goal.
And the reason why I say, go ahead and tell, because she's developing a devotional.
Okay.
For women.
Okay.
So I was like, go ahead.
Tell us more about this devotional.
Oh my God. Well, the devotional is called Girl, Read Your Bible.
Wow.
It's real simple. It's gonna bleed over into just podcasts. Again, I'm on TikTok, and so many people, they're asking for it. They want it for the kids, and this is just something I stumbled upon. I got COVID at the end of last year when I started my new job, and God said, do TikTok. And I was like, TikTok? Like the dances? Like, I don't know if I can do the dances, Lord. And he was like, no, just do TikTok.
Yes.
And so as I did it, I fumbled upon this relatable way. We call them hood Bible stories.
Yeah.
Just so people can get the word.
And he's so intentional.
Yeah.
He'll tell you one thing, but it'll take you to, this is that favor. This, I'm telling you, y'all know how we started. Look, and now here we are. So if our viewers wanted to get your information off of TikTok, what's your handle real quick?
On TikTok, it's just Christina with a K. That's Christina spelled with a K. And then WITAHK on TikTok. So y'all holla at me.
All right. So, Favor Fam. More information, please go to favormag.com, and we want to thank our Favor family for stopping by, and make sure you check out Bridgewater Music.
Being a father is an honor, a challenge, a duty, a celebration, and a testimony. I want to be legendary for you. I walk taller because of you, because I found everything to live for.
Favor fam, the victory has already been won because the spirit that is you is greater than the spirit that lives in the world. I want to thank you all for joining us. But before you leave, I want to let you know that everything will fall into place when you keep God first. For his word always stands true. God bless and take care.
I don't really know what I should be thinking, but I know that I have changed. A better place now, a new season.